Hi everyone, I'm Tim Herr. I am your 2022 AREAA National President, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of AREAA's ACE series. ACE stands for the Asian Code of Etiquette, and I would love to introduce you to my co-host, Teresa.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Tim. I'm really excited about this series. My name is Teresa Palacios Smith, and I'm the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for HomeServices of America. And I think the AAPI community is so diverse, and it's so important for our agents working with specific subgroups to really understand the cultural nuances. And I think by examining etiquette, we're going to be able to provide a better understanding of cultural values, resulting in strong relationships with our clients.
Absolutely. So very excited. In our first episode, we're going to be covering introductions.
Yes, and we will be. And whether you think of them as introductions or as first impressions, there are so many ways that we make ourselves memorable to those who we meet for the first time. And I personally love hearing about how cultures approach introductions.
Absolutely. So definitely in the last year, we've seen how we've had to adapt to our own introductions because of COVID. A handshake has always been the US standard business greeting, but now it seems like fist bumps and elbow bumps are kind of becoming the norm. I'm a hugger, so, I'm kind of missing the hug portion of it. But on top of that, we still need to make great first impressions, and it helps when you understand the other person's cultural values.
Right. And it's, being Latina, hugging is part of our culture.
Yes.
And we can't let it go. It's still part of us. And I do agree with you. It's different when you're meeting someone for the very first time at an event versus when you're going to somebody's house for the very first time. So what are some of the ways that you would want to make a good first impression at someone's home, Tim?
I mean, one of the major ones, and this one drives me nuts sometimes, is really taking off your shoes. It's taking off your shoes when you first come into a home is pretty standard across all Asian American and Pacific Islander communities and cultures. So, when we first go to the house, there's like a little landing area or the front door, and you want to take off your shoes. And I think that's pretty standard. And depending on the culture, like in Korean, a lot of Korean cultures, you actually be given flip-flop or little slippers rather, not flip-flops, that you wear inside the house. I don't like it, but when I go to my parents' house, there's little slippers right at the front door for me to wear right after I take off my shoes.
And that's so different. And I totally agree with you. And as real estate agents, when we walk in, we notice that immediately when we're walking into somebody's first, for the first time. So I totally understand that. So how about in terms of meeting someone that's, an elder for the very first time? Are there appropriate greetings or sayings you should be using?
Sure, like a lot of Korean culture and a lot of Japanese cultures, we actually have like an honorific form of speaking as well. So there's a super honorific, just a regular like elder. That's how we talk to our superiors or someone who's a lot older than we are. Then there's like an honorific, and then there's like just basic conversation. So there's definitely different greetings, even for the same hello. Is that you can say it different ways depending on who it is. And again, Koreans, we typically bow. We make sure that we acknowledge them. Usually, we're very it's the bowing thing is a little funny because depending on who is younger or of lesser seniority, you're going to be doing a bigger bow. So you're going to go lower. You try to go a little lower than the other person, and so there's definitely some cultural stuff that goes into play when you definitely meet somebody that's older or of higher seniority.
So interesting.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to a very special guest who is one of my favorite people in the world, our founding chairman of AREAA. And being Japanese American, we know who he is. Alan travels to Japan quite frequently, and I could not think of a better person to talk about introductions than him. So welcome, Alan Okamoto, to our show.
And Alan, it's such an honor to have you as our very first guest to the ACE video series. If I was with you, I would definitely bow as low as I could because it's such an honor to have you on this series. And one thing I've learned a lot, that I learned a long time ago that stuck with me in the Japanese presentations of the business cards, right, with both hands. And I've loved to hear your understanding of why this way of introducing and presenting yourself is so specific and so thoughtful.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. And I am totally honored and humbled to be the first speaker on the ACE series. I'd like to preface my remarks by saying that I do not put myself out as an expert in Japanese etiquette. As a matter of fact, I probably have had more faux pas in Japan than any other tourist. So take my comments from that aspect. Anyway, as far as giving a business card, it's very important, as you said, in Japanese culture. The Japanese businessman always carries his business card in a holder, and they normally have it in his vest pocket. The Americans, on the contrary, carry their business cards in their wallet, and they carry their wallets in their back pocket. So you can imagine when a Japanese meets an American and the American pulls this business card out of his rear end, it's quite upsetting and very disrespectful. But anyway, the Japanese always has a business card holder, and they take the business card out, and they could present it to the recipient either with one hand or two. But the lettering is always facing the recipient. And the recipient receives the card and always looks at the card. You read it, you find out almost everything about that person on the business card on the business level. And when you give the card, receive the card, you can make a comment, "Oh, wonderful paper," or "Oh, I see you're vice president," because that means that you really received the card and respected that card and that person.
Yeah, it drives me, I'm sorry. It drives me crazy when people just don't even take their time to look at it.
Right. And when you sit down at the conference room table, you place the card on the table. You don't put it in your pocket, and you never write anything on the card. If you're sitting in a conference room, there's 5 or 6 people, you don't hand out your business card like you're dealing out a deck of cards. You don't just flip them out around the card. You always stand up. You present the cards face to face, and you always present the card to the most senior person in the group, and then you work your way down. I really enjoy that ceremony. It means a lot. It shows that you respect the other person, or you respect each other. In Japan, they have the saying, "No card, no face." So the business card is very important.
Wow, what a great lesson for all of us, right, Alan? And I love too the beautiful tribute that you have. And I know you are from San Francisco, and I look at you right now and already see that great style that you have. And I've seen you right in both casual clothes and also in formal attire, and you wear the clothes so beautifully. So in the Japanese culture, how important are attire choices when meeting someone for the very first time? For example, a new client. Is there anything to avoid wearing, or anything to wear that would be appreciated?
First of all, I appreciate your comments about how I wear my clothes, but if you ask my wife and my daughter, you would get a different opinion, definitely. When we're ready to go out for the evening, my wife will look at me and say, "Are you wearing that?" So that's code for "you better change, otherwise I'm not going out with you." But anyway, in Japan, it's also, again, a matter of respect. You go to a business meeting, you'd wear a jacket, a white shirt, and in most cases a tie. Now in the office, recently, over the last few years, during several months of the summer, you're allowed to take off your jacket and you don't have to wear a tie. And even at some press conferences and whatnot, the prime minister will speak without a tie on. But you always would be respectful. I know Tim mentioned the flip-flops earlier. You would never wear flip-flops or shorts to a business meeting. And the same goes for women. The women wear long skirts. They don't have their shoulders exposed. And of course, their dress is appropriate height. So it's just a matter of respect and good taste.
Absolutely. I think with the Japanese culture, we have a lot to learn from. I think it's one of the most beautiful cultures and one of the most respectful cultures that we have within the Asian American community. And Alan, you are my inspiration of dressing, because I tell everyone I want to be like you when I grow up. If I can figure out how to wear that bow tie every day, I would. I have to mimic myself watching a YouTube video and kind of to do it. But thank you so much for your insight, and it's always wonderful to hear your experience and in bestowing your amazing knowledge to us.
My pleasure, definitely.
Yes, thank you so much, Alan. And I learned so much today. And I too agree with Tim in the beauty and traditions that I think I learned the most about the respect that's given and, acknowledged, right, with the Japanese culture. So I found that so interesting. And for all of us to remember these things, right, when we're working with other cultures, because that's how we show signs of respect and how we earn the business for our clients. So thank you again for sharing that.
You're welcome. And we'll experience the Japanese culture firsthand when AREAA goes to Japan.
Absolutely. So, and thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you to our next episode.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.